One of the coolest things about this show is that it's supported by listeners. People who listen and who love it help pay for it. Today, I want to thank Eula, Jill, Zoe, and Teresa for being those people. We really appreciate you keeping this show on track and helping us pay the bills. And not only that, helping us feel like our work on this show is valued. A quick reminder that we want to do a show about sounds you love, everyday, ordinary sounds that you hear in your life that somehow evoke a feeling. Record a sound and send it to us. It's easy. Just get out your voice memo app, record the sound, maybe also record your voice explaining what the sound is and why it's meaningful to you, and then email it to us at bittersweetlifepodcast@gmail.com. We really want to include your voices, your sounds in this episode. So, listen to the world around you, take a quick recording, and send it in. If you need any help, just drop us a line. You can contact us through that email address or through thebittersweetlife.net, where you'll also find ways to support the show. And thanks. Welcome to Rome. This is The Bittersweet Life with Katy Sewell and Tiffany Parks. Hello, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katy Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
And today we're going to talk about contronyms. Now, that's not just what we're going to talk about. But first off, what is a contronym? That's the real question.
Well, you just told me what it is. And I mean, I probably could have figured it out based on the etymology of the word. But a contronym is a word that means opposite things.
Yes.
Almost opposite, opposing things.
Yes, single words that have two contradictory meanings. They are their own opposite. According to this, they're quite rare. My sister sent me this list just sort of saying, how does anybody ever learn English as a second language when she was reading these examples? Let me give you some examples because it will help you start to think about what it is. Okay. So, for instance, let's take the word bound. Bound could mean you're heading for a destination, or it could mean that you're restrained from movement.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. That is so true. I'm bound for New York.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting.
Here's another one. Dust. To add fine particles or to remove them.
Oh yeah, we're cruel. Whoever invented the English language is cruel.
I know. Okay, here's another one. Left. It could be either remained or departed.
I was left. Yeah, I was left behind.
Yeah, it's the only piece left. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so. What's weird is that I've never even thought about this.
I know.
That's these thoughts this has never even occurred to me.
Here's one we've thought a lot about during the war with Ukraine. Sanction. It can either mean to approve or it can mean to boycott.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Here's another one. Weather. To withstand or to wear away.
Okay, now my mind is getting blown because you said they were rare, but actually I feel like there's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of words that, mean opposite things. Okay.
Do you want me to keep going? I have a couple more.
Well, a couple more.
Okay, a couple more. Bolt. Bolt could mean to secure or it could mean to flee. And kind of in that same space, cleave could mean to adhere or to separate.
Yes, because when you know that famous, cleave to your wife, leave your mother and father and cleave to your wife.
Right. Or I could just chop it in two.
It's like whacking something into pieces.
Yeah, literally a cleaver.
Like with a cleaver. Mm-hmm. Yes. That's interesting. When you were talking about this, I did think of an example of one of these, but I don't know if it's a true example because it might just be people misusing the word. And that word is literally.
Yes.
Because the true meaning of literally is that it's literal, that you say, I met a guy and he's literally 10 feet tall. That means he actually has to be 10 feet tall. He can't just be like 7'6". He's 10 feet tall, literally. But people don't use it like that. The majority of people who use it, and even I trip up and use it incorrectly sometimes too. My mind was literally blown.
Right.
Well, no, actually it wasn't. Thank God. So it means literally, because you can use it correctly, or it can mean figuratively, which is really the opposite of literally. And someone informed me that the use of literally incorrectly has become so widespread that they finally, like, whoever decides these things, like the people who update the dictionary, they finally caved and were like, okay, literally can mean figuratively. Okay, fine.
Yeah, because it's almost used more that way now than.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because before that became commonplace to use literally as figuratively, I don't remember people saying literally a lot. Just wasn't a common
I feel
thing.
like people have always said it. I feel like since I've been around, I feel like that word has been used literally all the time. Like it's literally every other word.
And sometimes I edit it out when you say it.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Touche.
Yes, I do. But I was saying we could talk about this in a larger sense because there's that question of how hard it is to learn English as a second language. And when I read lists like this, I often think, oh, thank goodness English was the language I grew up with because it would be so hard to be the second thing you learned. But secondly, I thought, well, I wonder what words or things when Tiffany was learning Italian really tripped her up. That popped to mind because, you're so fluent now. It's easy to just imagine this is the way it always was and that you had a natural talent for it. And by age 3, you were speaking fluent Italian. But obviously that's not true. And there must have been things that took you a long time to learn.
I mean, it is hard to remember, to be honest, because now I've been speaking Italian for about half my life. Because I did start learning it in college and I did learn it pretty rapidly for it being, not my first language. Not that I'm showing off. It came relatively easy to me, especially compared to other foreign languages that I've tried to learn. But I mean, I feel like grammar has been, some of the grammatic constructions have been much more challenging than I'm just trying to think of a vocabulary word that has always been hard for me. I mean, I think probably English has more words than Italian. I think English is one of the languages, at least one of the Western languages, that has the most, like just literally, I shouldn't say literally now, it has the most words or one of the most words of any other language. But I think that grammar of Romance languages and definitely Germanic languages, like German, I don't have any familiarity with any other Germanic languages. English, I guess, is a Germanic language, but the grammar is so much more complex in those languages. And so for that reason, I mean, sometimes English seems really, really easy comparatively, like particularly the verb endings. Like you don't have to conjugate verbs. You just, they're just all the same. I walk, you walk, you just add an S for the third person. She walks, they walk, we walk. It's just the same. Whereas Italian is in French and German, my God, they're so complex. We've got the different genders. You have to remember if something is feminine or masculine. And in Italian, it has to agree. If you have an adjective in front of a noun, you have to make it agree, not just with the feminine, with the sex, if it's feminine or masculine, but also with the number, so you've got ragazza, ragazze, let's say girls, belle ragazze, beautiful girls. You can't, you can be bello, it can be belli, it can be belle. There's so much there. I mean, I want to say at least 7 ways to say the in Italian, at least.
Mm-hmm.
German has even more. Russian has even more. Just considering that, I feel like English is an easier language. And when you grow up speaking a Romance language, it's easier then to learn the others. However, there are things about English that are extremely challenging. And I would say the number one is spelling, because the spelling makes no sense.
Yes.
Have you ever looked at anything written in Scottish? Like, it looks, it's the same sort of thing. It's like, it looks just someone just threw a bunch of letters and like, it doesn't, it sounds like totally different.
Like
I see
Welsh.
Aurelio. Yeah, Welsh, Irish, yeah. Scottish, they're all kind of the same. Not the same, but they're the same in that aspect. And I see Aurelio, like, he's like, Mom, well, how do you say this? And it's like, enough. And I'm like, how do I explain to him that GH makes the F sound? I've already just gotten him to understand that PH makes the F sound, you know, and that was hard for him to get his head around, that PH would make an F sound. And now I'm telling him that GH, but I'm like, just in like a very few circumstances. And then he's looking at the word through and he's like, thruff. And I'm like, well, no, wait. In this case, it doesn't make any sound, you know. So English can be complex in pronunciation and spelling. The vowels are hard, you know, the vowels aren't pure like they are in Italian. They change depending on so many different factors. So I'm not saying like, oh, English is so easy, but I think grammatically it's easier. But to get back to your point, like, what is a word in Italian that I had a hard time with? And I'm just stalling really because I'm trying to think of one.
Yeah. Very, very adept stalling, though. That's pretty good.
Thank you. I literally can't think. I can think of grammatical things, reflexive verbs, particularly.
Well, give me an example of a reflexive verb.
Well, okay, I don't even know if reflexive verb is the right way to say it because it's been so long since I've actually taken like any kind of grammar course that sometimes I forget how you call things. But okay, in Italian, you have to okay. So if I want to say I gave it to her, this took me, I mean, I cannot even tell you how long it took me to get this. And I still have to really concentrate on it when I say it. So if I want to say I gave this to her, or I gave it to her. So there's a lot of pronouns in there, right? So it's okay. And I hope I'm not going to make a mistake. And people listening who speak Italian, or I'm like nervous about you guys because I don't want to make a mistake. Glielo data or glielo dato. So you got to say gli. Gli means to her or to him. And then lo is the object. It's the thing. It's the thing that I'm giving, right? So it could be la, but I'm also putting it in the past tense. So even if it's a feminine, I have to do an apostrophe ho, which is the auxiliary verb, and then dato is the past participle. So basically, gli is to her. Le apostrophe is the thing. O is like I have given it to her, and dato is like given, and that has to agree. Dato, data, depending on if it's a feminine thing or a masculine thing. That's just one example, but it's like it's so sticky because my mind can't work fast enough to get it right. It almost never can. It's only now that I'm just getting into it's becoming a habit to say it, because that pronoun yi is not the same as if, so there's some verbs take this is getting too grammatical, but some verbs take a direct object and some verbs take an indirect object, right? So a direct object, it's like I see you. That's direct. Ti vedo. I'm not seeing at you. I'm not seeing on you or in you or of you. I'm seeing you. Whereas give can take both, because I'm going to give a pencil. I'm giving the pencil, but I'm giving it to you, right? So you are the indirect object, I think.
Right, because the pencil would be the main object.
The pencil would be the main object. So if I say I see her, it would be la vedo. Or it's I see him, it would be lo vedo. But if it's I give him, it's not lo do. I give to him. We would say in English, I give him. But in Italian, correctly, it's actually I give to him. And so that got me, it was so challenging for me for so long to be able to think fast enough to be like, is it I verb to him, or is it I verb him? So because you would say lo saluto, I salute him, I say hello to him. Whereas I say him, you can't say I say him, it's I say to him. Gli dico, I say to him, gli instead of lo, or le instead of la. Oh my God, I can't even, I'm getting confused just talking about this.
Whatever the equivalent of this is in Spanish is when I dropped out of Spanish in high school.
Yeah, I think it's like that for a lot of people. Because I remember when I was studying Italian years before I moved here. And I feel like I got to that point. And it's the same exact thing exists in French too. And I'm like, I got to that point and I'm like, it's too much for my brain. My brain can't handle it. And I think it's one of those things where either you're incredibly brilliant and you can learn it, or B, you have to say it so often and you do make a mistake and you mistake a mistake and some nice person corrects you in a nice way enough times that you finally get it and it just becomes habit. And that's really the only way, I think.
Yeah. How interesting. Yeah. Yeah. You're like, can we please go back to when I'm just going strawberry, black, door, washing machine.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because
Girl, boy.
my father-in-law has been on this decades-long quest to learn to speak English. When I had more time and was a little bit more eager to please, he asked me, will you give me like private English lessons? And like, so I would sit down with him on Sundays. This is before I was married, and I would try to help him out, but it was so painful. I couldn't do it anymore. And I stopped and I kind of feel guilty because, he has this desire to learn English and I just, I'm not helping him. Whereas you'd think, oh, you've got an American daughter-in-law, well, just speak English with her. We joke around because pretty much the first English words that he ever learned, he asked me how to say cantaloupe because we were eating it. And I taught him cantaloupe and green beans. And so we always joke about like, that's like, it's been 20 years, maybe 12 years. And that's all he knows how to say.
Yeah.
And he's just now decided, because he wants to go back to America, but he knows that if he goes, he's not going to have anyone with him who's going to be able to speak English. Because last time he went with his wife, they took their teenage daughter who spoke English pretty well, but she's not going to go with him again. She's in her 20s now. She's not interested in traveling with her parents. And so he's like, I got to like be able to at least get by in the airport, So he's enrolled himself in English classes, but he's like going full out. He's taking private English classes because he's like, I'm not going to learn anything in a course. I've got to have a private lesson. So now he's asking me all the time, all these questions. And it's so hard for me because, the older you are when you learn a language, the harder it is for your mind to switch and to be like, okay, I'm speaking, I'm just going to forget all the rules of my own language and just be open to the new rules. This is why kids are so good at learning languages, is because they don't have this thing holding them back because everything's new for them. Everything he tries to translate literally.
And using the word literally, like he's literally trying to translate word for word what it means.
He's trying to translate it word for word and it just doesn't work.
Well, can you give us an example of like how he would translate a sentence, for instance?
He showed me this text message that, on his phone that he had sent to his teacher. And I'm like, oh my God, poor teacher. I wonder how often he writes to her. And he'd said, I saw this written on the TV, No Way Home. I think it might be the name of a movie. What does it mean? Because he, in his mind, he's like, no, I know what no means. It means no. And I know what way means. It means like, and he said the Italian word for like path or street, and then home, I know it means casa. So I don't understand, like, no strada casa, like it doesn't make any sense. And she wrote back to him, it's the name of a movie, and it means non c'è ritorno a casa. There is no return to home. He's like, but I don't understand because that's a lot more words in Italian than I'm seeing here in English. He's like, it just doesn't line up to me. And of course, he understands that there are, idiomatic expressions. And so I said, in English, when you say home, it really means to home. Like I'm going home, but what you mean is I'm going to my home. So, already there, you've got like a word left out. And then there's, it's a title of a movie, right? So it's not necessarily going to be a full sentence. There is no way home. There is no return home. So it's just, that kind of thing. Or, he always says, I going to the store. And I said, no, you have to say, I am going. And he's like, ma io sono. He's like, io sono going. That doesn't make any sense. It's not that I am. And I'm like, but it's like sto andando. In Italian, it would be sto andando, but they have two different verbs that mean I am, or that mean to be. Stare and essere, and stare is the one that is used with the the ing words. And so he's like, oh, okay, so it's just challenge. It's a challenge. I think learning language is a challenge at any age, but for a person in their late 60s,
Yeah, and that's an interesting complication with it being a movie title, because it just got me thinking about like anytime you would run into anything artistic, how hard it would be to understand. Like, I was just thinking about it. The title of a book by an author named Vendela Vito. She wrote a book where the title is "We Run the Tides." We run the tides.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's beautifully poetic. If you are an English speaker, it's an intriguing title. It also sort of gives you the tone of the book, maybe. Like, it's got a little bit of arrogance to it. But all of that would be completely lost if you were just looking at this book and trying to figure out what those individual words meant. And then even if you had to try to explain it, you still couldn't explain what it meant, because it could mean so many things, because it's meant as an intriguing title. We Run the Tides could be about anything.
Well, also think about Grapes of Wrath.
Right.
Because he read, it's one of my father-in-law's favorite books. Of course, he's read it in the Italian translation. And I believe in the Italian translation, it's just called ira, which means wrath. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that. And, he said, what is it called in English? And like anger? I can't remember. And I said, no, it's called Grapes of Wrath. And he's like, what is grapes? And I said, like, uva, and he's like, what? I don't understand what that. And I'm like, I don't either. Like, I don't know what that means. Grapes of wrath. Like, what does that mean? And it's so true for anything poetic. And I always have to explain to him, like, okay, like he'll listen to music and he'll hear something and I'll be like, but I was taught that in English, you put the adjective before the noun, but in poetry, you can put it after, And so yes, poetry, movie titles. And also when we were talking about this tonight, and I said, okay, when there's a film, you have to, you translate the film, you have it, if a foreign version of the same film made, a lot of times they don't translate the title of the film literally. And I said, for example, and this is one of my favorite examples of a film title, 7-Year Itch. I don't know if you've ever seen 7-Year Itch.
Yeah.
One of my favorite childhood movies. And I said to him, prurito di 7 anni, I said this to him, which would be the literal translation of 7-Year Itch. And he's like looking at me a little bit confused, And I said, in Italian, it's la moglie va in vacanza. Or it's either quando la moglie va in vacanza or just la moglie va in vacanza, which means the wife goes on holiday. The wife goes on vacation.
Oh, wow.
And it clicked for him. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Because they say after, and there's no expression, the 7-year itch. There's no expression for that in Italian, but he got it. He's like, oh, after 7 years of marriage, you start to look around at other women, and I can see, oh, in this case, it's the wife is on vacation. Okay, oh, I got it. And like this clicked in his mind.
It's so interesting. Yeah. Derek and I just got done watching a show. Well, not just, but, watching a show on Netflix that was a Spanish show. In the English, like it's still in Spanish, but with English subtitles. Here they market it as Money Heist is the name of the show. Which is pretty basic. You're like, well, I guess it's going to be about a heist and money.
Yeah.
But on the title card, when it tells you what the title is, in Spanish, it's called The House of Paper. We were guessing that the reason why they wouldn't have translated that, why they went with Money Heist instead of that, was probably that The House of Paper is a pun on a couple levels. Because one, they're robbing a place where money is printed, right? So it would be literally the House of Paper, but also, maybe it's something like the House of Cards, like that same thing that we have, And of course, in English, we already have a show called The House of Cards, so they can't translate it that way. And so why they went with just generic old Money Heist to let us know that it was an action type show, I'll never know, but it is worth watching.
I would love to listen in on the meeting where they're deciding the new name of the movie or of the TV show, because I feel like that happens a lot. And sometimes they get it pretty well. They do it pretty well. And sometimes, I don't think La moglie va in vacanza is terrible as a translation for the 7-Year Itch, but the Queen's Gambit, you know what they call it in Italian? La regina dei scacchi, the Queen of Chess, which is just so not as good.
Yeah, it's a little bit more on the nose.
Yeah, it's too on the nose. Exactly. Yeah. Because, the Queen's Gambit is a move that she plays.
Yeah.
And I think so often they don't get it right. I don't know if you have ever seen The Holiday. It's a rom-com. It's really cheesy. It's with like Cameron Diaz and Jude Law. And it's about these two women who at Christmas, they're both like in these miserable romantic situations. And at Christmas time, they decide to like do like house swapping. Like they don't know each other, but they do whatever you call that when you swap houses. But they swap everything. Like they swap cars and they meet each other's friends and they fall in love with each other. Like anyway, to be honest, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but it's adorable and I love it. But the translation in Italian is L'amore non va in vacanza. Love doesn't go on holiday or love doesn't go on vacation. So yeah, you think I guess just wouldn't be enough. La vacanza, the holiday, just not quite telling enough. I feel like in Italian, they really do have to tell you what it is. Like, especially if it's an American movie, like they're really going to make it clear, like Money Heist, you know?
Yeah.
Jaws.
Uh-huh.
Lo squalo, the shark. Yeah, right? This is what I was thinking of. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I mean, gotta be one of the best movie titles ever. You know how they translated it?
Do you want me to guess?
Oh, sure, if you want.
Is it more on the nose than that? I mean,
It's
obviously
so
that's
on the nose.
okay.
It's so on the
Eternal
nose.
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The good mind is always happy.
And that's good. But this is even worse. Se mi lasci, ti cancello. If you leave me, I will erase you.
Ooh.
It's awful, right?
It's very vindictive, but it's intriguing in its own manner. That's certain.
Yeah. And Home Alone, which we watched over and over and over again this Christmas. Mamma, ho perso l'aereo. Mom, I missed the airplane. Right? It just doesn't have the same ring.
No.
Oh, here's one of the worst. I think one of the worst ever is not Gone with the Wind. That is translated literally via col vento. It's The Sound of Music. Tutti insieme appassionatamente. All together passionately. I mean,
wow.
I have no idea where they came up with that.
So an interesting experiment for you would be to have to just choose movies based on their Italian title and not know and try to like guess what it must be before you start watching. And then
I know what we should do. I should name a title in Italian. And if you need help translating, I'll translate. And you have to guess what movie it is.
Okay. All right.
And I promise you these are movies that you know.
Okay. Let's just do a couple and then we'll continue on a bonus episode for this month.
Yes. Una pazza giornata di vacanza. A crazy vacation day.
Let's see. National Lampoon's European Vacation.
But remember, it's giornata. Una pazza giornata. A crazy vacation day. One day.
Okay. Boy, I'm trying to think of a movie where it's just a one-day vacation. A crazy vacation day. Is everybody screaming at the top of their lungs right now? What would be a movie about a crazy vacation
Everybody
day?
listening knows.
Everyone knows. Is this a newer movie or an old one?
No.
This is very old.
Not at all.
Roman Holiday.
No, it's not that old. It's our generation. It's our childhood.
I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's good. A crazy vacation day. I guess I don't think of that as a vacation day because, he's just skipping school.
It's from school.
Yeah. All right. Give me one more.
Right. You might get this one. You might.
Okay.
L'attimo fuggente, which literally means the fleeing moment.
The fleeing moment. They're all so obscure. They're like on the nose and also generic. The fleeing moment. Okay, give me like an era.
That's our childhood again.
The fleeing moment. Okay, give me a like genre.
Oh, what would this genre even be? I mean, drama, I guess.
Drama. Okay. Would you say we were children or teenagers when this came out?
Children.
Okay. The fleeing moment.
Or it could be the fleeting moment. That could also work. Like a moment that's disappearing, that you can't catch, that you want to catch. A moment that you want to try to catch.
Who's one of the stars in it?
If I tell you the star, you're going to know.
Okay. That's okay with me.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. The fleeting moment.
Carpe diem. The Dead Poet Society, Katie. Come on.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I could
Gather
only
ye
picture him
rose-
in Good Morning Vietnam, and I'm like, that can't be
Gather
it.
ye rosebuds while you may.
That's lovely. Well, maybe we can continue this, like I said, on a bonus episode.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Which, of
That'd be
course,
fun.
are available to people who are regular donors to this show. 2 bonus episodes a month
Mm-hmm.
over through Patreon for as little as $5 a month, or people who make recurring or large donations at PayPal. You get access to that as well. Links to donate in the show notes. I'm going to give you one more of these
Contronyms.
Yes. Which do you want to know? Do you want to know apology, or do you want to know fast or peer?
Well, let me think about apology, because apology can mean, asking for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But apology can also mean when you're defending something. They call people apologists when they are trying to explain and defend a belief system.
That's exactly right. A statement of contrition for an action or a defensive one. So
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
That's cool.
Fast.
Peer. Okay, sorry, fast. Let me think. Fast can be obviously going quickly, but fast can also, like when you hold fast onto something, you hold it tight to you.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes. So it either means quick or stuck or made stable.
Right. Okay. I want to try to get this last one too. Peer, you said? Peer?
Yes, that's right.
Peer. Well, obviously, peer can mean a lot of things. Peer can mean to look carefully. Peer can mean obviously someone who's like your contemporary or your colleague. But I don't see how those are not negatives, obviously. Peer. I don't get that one.
I don't think I would have gotten that one either. It's a person who is an equal, your peer.
Yeah.
Or a person of the nobility.
That's right. A peer of the nobility. That's right. Someone who is elite.
Yes. But I like your adding of that to peer as in to look. That is a whole other level of this conversation that we could get into, because now we're talking about people versus action. Oh my gosh. People who are learning English as a second language, your heads did not literally just explode, but they might have just exploded a little bit there.
Yeah, there are so many words I feel in English that, beyond the contronyms that we've been talking about, but just words that mean that even are spelled alike, sound alike, and pronounced alike, and mean totally different things. Some can be a verb, some can be a noun. And I said to someone once, I said, "Oh, in Italian that doesn't exist," and I was corrected immediately. And there's a word called pesca, which can mean peach, and it can also mean like the act of fishing. So I stand corrected. And I'm sure there are others in Italian, but I don't think there are as many.
Very interesting. Well, we're going to leave it there. And until next time, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katy Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
Join us again. Bye. You could sponsor this show and reach educated, curious, and compassionate listeners all over the world. Our listeners are a remarkable, diverse, and engaged group of people that I am so continually impressed by. Visit thebittersweetlife.net and click support to get the conversation started.